Welcome to Chapter 15 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. Chapter 15, A God Buys His Cheeseburgers. The next afternoon, June 14th, 7 days before the solstice, our train rolled into Denver. We hadn't eaten since the night before in the dining car, somewhere in Kansas. We hadn't taken a shower since Half-Blood Hill, and I was sure that was obvious. "Hey, let's try to contact Chiron," Annabeth said. "I want to talk to him about your talk with the river spirit." "We can't use phones, right?" "I'm not talking about phones." We wandered through downtown for about half an hour, though I wasn't sure what Annabeth was looking for. The air was hot and dry, which felt weird for the humidity of St. Louis. Everywhere we turned, the Rocky Mountains seemed to be staring at me, like a tidal wave about to crash into the city. Finally, we found an empty, do-it-yourself car wash. We veered toward the stall furthest from the street, keeping our eyes open for patrol cars. We were 3 adolescents hanging out in a car wash without a car. Any cop worth his donuts would figure out that we were up to no good. "What exactly are we doing?" I asked, as Grover took out a spray gun. "Hey, it's 75 cents, he grumbled. "I've only got 2 quarters left." "Annabeth?" "Hey, don't look at me," she said. "That dining car wiped me out." I fished out the last bit of my change and passed Grover a quarter, which left me 2 nickels, 1 drachma from Medusa's place. "Excellent," Grover said. "We could do it with a spray bottle, of course, but the connection isn't as good, and my arm gets tired of pumping." "What are you talking about?" He fed in the quarters and set the knob to fine mist. "I'm IMing." "Instant messaging?" "Iris messaging," Annabeth corrected. "The rainbow goddess Iris carries messages for the gods. If you know how to ask, and if she's not too busy, then she'll do the same for half-bloods." "You summon the goddess with a spray gun." Grover pointed the nozzle in the air, and the water hissed out in a thick white mist. "Hey, unless you know an easier way to make a rainbow." Sure enough, late afternoon light filtered through the vapor and broke into colors. Annabeth held her palm out to me. "Drachma, please." I handed it over. She raised the coin over her head. "O goddess, accept our offering." She threw the drachma into the rainbow, and it disappeared in a golden shimmer. "Half-Blood Hill," Annabeth requested. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, as I was looking through the mist at Strawberry Fields, and the Long Island Sound appeared in the distance. We seemed to be on the porch of the big house. Standing with his back to us at the railing was a sandy-haired guy in shorts and an orange tank top. He was holding a bronze sword, and he seemed to be staring intently at something down in the meadow. "Luke!" I called. He turned, eyes wide. I could swear he was standing 3 feet in front of me through a screen of mist, except I could only see the part of him that appeared in the rainbow. "Percy!" His scarred face broke into a grin. "Is that Annabeth too? Oh, thank the gods! Are you guys okay?" We're fine," Annabeth stammered. She was madly trying to straighten her dirty t-shirt and attempting to comb the loose hair out of her face. "We thought, Chiron, he's down at the cabins." Luke's smile faded. "We're having some issues with the campers. Listen, is everything cool with you? Is Grover all right?" "I'm here," Grover called. He held the nozzle out to one side and stepped into Luke's line of vision. "What kind of issues?" Just then, a big Lincoln Continental pulled into the car wash with its stereo turned to maximum hip-hop. As the car slid into the next stall, the bass from the subwoofers vibrated so much it shook the pavement. "Chiron had to—" "What's that noise?" Luke yelled. "I'll take care of it," Annabeth yelled back, looking very relieved to have an excuse to get out of sight. "Grover, come on." "What?" Grover said. "But—" "Give Percy the nozzle and come on," she ordered. Grover muttered something about girls being harder to understand than the Oracle of Delphi. Then he handed me the spray gun and followed Annabeth. I readjusted the hose so I could keep the rainbow going and still see Luke. "Chiron had to break up a fight," Luke shouted to me over the music. "Things are pretty tense here, Percy." Word leaked out about the Zeus-Poseidon standoff, and we're still not sure how. Probably the same scumbag who summoned the Hellhound. Now the campers are starting to take sides. It's shaping up like the Trojan War all over again. Aphrodite, Ares, and Apollo are backing Poseidon, more or less, and Athena is backing Zeus. I shuddered to think that Clarice's cabin would ever be on my dad's side for anything. In the next stall, I heard Annabeth and some guy arguing with each other. Then the music's volume decreased drastically. So what's your status? Luke asked me. Chiron will be sorry he missed you. I told him pretty much everything, including my dreams. It felt so good to see him. To feel like I was back at camp, even for a few minutes. And I didn't realize how long I had talked until the beeper went off on the spray machine. And then I realized I only had 1 more minute before the water shut off. I wish I could be there, Luke told me. We can't help much from here, I'm afraid. But listen, it had to be Hades who took the Master Bolt. He was there at Olympus at the winter solstice. I was chaperoning a field trip, and we saw him. But Chiron said the gods can't take each other's magic items directly. That's true, Luke said, looking troubled. Still, Hades has the Helm of Darkness. How could anybody else sneak into the throne room and steal the Master Bolt? You'd have to be invisible. We were both silent until Luke seemed to realize what he'd said. Oh, hey, no, he protested. I didn't mean Annabeth. She and I have known each other forever. I mean, she would never... well, she's like a little sister to me. I wondered if Annabeth would like that description. In the stall next to us, the music stopped completely. A man screamed in terror, car doors slammed, and the Lincoln peeled out of the car wash. You'd better go see what that was, Luke said. Listen, are you wearing the flying shoes? I'd feel better if I know they've done you some good. Oh, yeah. I tried not to sound like a guilty liar. Yeah, they've really come in handy. Really? He grinned. They fit and everything? The water shut off and the mist started to evaporate. Well, take care of yourself out there in Denver, Luke called, his voice getting fainter. And tell Grover it'll be better this time. Nobody will get turned into a pine tree if he just... But the mist was gone. Luke's image faded to nothing. I was alone in a wet, empty car wash stall. Annabeth and Grover came around the corner, laughing, but stopped when they saw my face. Annabeth's smile faded. What happened, Percy? What did Luke say? Not much, I lied, my stomach feeling as empty as the big 3 cabin. Come on, let's go find some dinner. A few minutes later, we were sitting in a booth in a gleaming chrome diner. All around us, families were eating burgers and drinking malts and sodas. Finally, the waitress came over. She raised her eyebrow skeptically. Well? I said, we, want to order dinner? You kids have money to pay for it? Grover's lower lip quivered. I was afraid he would start bleeding, or worse, start eating the linoleum. Annabeth looked about ready to pass out from hunger. I was trying to think of a sob story for the waitress, when a rumble shook the entire building. A motorcycle, the size of a baby elephant, had pulled up to the curb. All conversation in the diner stopped. The motorcycle's headlight glared red. Its gas tank had flames painted on it and a shotgun holster riveted to either side, complete with shotguns. The seat was leather, but the leather looked like, well, Caucasian human skin. The guy on the bike would have made pro wrestlers run for mama. He was dressed in a red muscle shirt, black jeans, and a black leather duster with a hunting knife strapped to his thigh. He wore red wraparound shades, and he had the cruelest, most brutal face I'd ever seen. Handsome, I guess, but wicked, with oily black crew cut and cheeks that were scarred from many, many fights. The weird thing was, I felt like I'd seen his face somewhere before. As he walked into the diner, a hot, dry wind blew through the place. All the people rose, as if they were hypnotized, but the biker waved his hand dismissively, and they all sat down again. Everybody went back to their conversations. The waitress blinked as if somebody had just pressed the rewind button on her brain. She asked us again, You kids got money to pay for that? The biker said, It's on me. He slid into our booth, which was way too small for him, and he crowded Annabeth against the window. He looked up at the waitress who was gaping at him, and said, Are you still here? He pointed at her, and she stiffened. She turned as if she'd been spun around and then marched back toward the kitchen. The biker looked at me. I couldn't see his eyes behind the red shades, but bad feelings started boiling up in my stomach. Anger, resentment, bitterness. I wanted to hit a wall. I wanted to pick a fight with somebody. Who did this guy think he was? He gave me a wicked grin. So, you're old Seaweed's kid, huh? I should have been surprised or scared, but instead I felt like I was looking at my stepdad, Gabe, and I wanted to rip this guy's head off. What's it to you? I asked. Annabeth's eyes flashed me a warning. Percy, this is... The biker raised his hand, silencing her immediately. It's okay, he said. I don't mind a little attitude, as long as you remember who's the boss. You know who I am, little cousin." Then it struck me why this guy looked familiar. He had that same vicious sneer as some of the kids at Camp Half-Blood, the ones from Cabin 5. "You're Clarice's dad," I said. "Ares, the god of war." Ares grinned and took off his shades. Where his eyes should have been, there was only fire, empty sockets glowing with miniature nuclear explosions. "That's right, punk. I heard you broke Clarice's spear." "She was asking for it," I snarled back. "Probably. That's cool. I don't fight my kids' fights. You know, what I'm here for? Well, I heard you were in town, and I got a little proposition for you." The waitress came back with heaping trays of food. Cheeseburgers, fries, onion rings, and chocolate shakes. Ares handed her a few golden drachmas. She looked nervously at the coins. "But these aren't..." Ares pulled out a huge knife and started cleaning his fingernails. "Problem, sweetheart." The waitress swallowed and left with the gold. "You can't do that," I told Ares. "You can't just threaten people with a knife." Ares laughed. "Are you kidding? I love this country. Best place since Sparta. Don't you carry a weapon, punk? You should. Dangerous world out there. Which brings me to my proposition. I need you to do me a favor." "What favor could I do for a god?" "Something a god doesn't have time to do for himself." "It's nothing much. I left my shield at an abandoned water park here in town. I was going on a little date with my girlfriend. We were interrupted. I left my shield behind, and I want you to fetch it for me." "Why don't you go back and get it yourself?" I asked him. The fire in his eye sockets glowed a little hotter. "Why don't I turn you into a prairie dog and run you over with my Harley?" "Because I don't feel like it. A god is giving you an opportunity to prove yourself, Percy Jackson." "Will you prove yourself a coward?" He leaned forward. "Or maybe you only fight when there's a river to dive into, so your daddy can protect you." I wanted to punch this guy, but somehow I knew he was waiting for it. Ares' power was causing my anger. He'd love it if I attacked, but I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. "We're not interested," I said. "We've already got a quest." Ares' fiery eyes made me see things I didn't want to see. Blood, smoke, corpses, all on a battlefield. "I know all about your quest, punk. When that item was first stolen, Zeus sent his best out looking for it. Apollo, Athena, Artemis, and me, naturally. If I couldn't sniff out a weapon that powerful..." He licked his lips as if the very thought of the Master Bolt made him hungry. "Well, if I couldn't find it, you got no hope. Nevertheless, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. Your dad and I go way back. After all, I'm the one who told him my suspicions about old corpse breath." "You told him Hades stole the bolt?" "Sure. Framing somebody to start a war? Oldest trick in the book." I recognized it immediately. In a way, you got me to thank for your little quest." "Thanks," I grumbled. "Hey, I'm a generous guy. Just do my little job, and I'll help you on your way. I'll arrange a ride west for you and your friends." "We're doing fine on our own," I told him. "Yeah, right. No money, no wheels, no clue what you're up against. Help me out, and maybe I'll tell you something you need to know. Something about your mom." "My mom?" He grinned. "That got your attention. The water park is a mile west on Delancey. You can't miss it. Look for the Tunnel of Love ride." "What interrupted your date?" I asked. "Something scare you off?" Ares bared his teeth. But I'd seen this threatening look before on Clarice. There was something false about it, almost like he was nervous. "You're lucky you met me, punk, and not one of the other Olympians. They're not as forgiving of rudeness as I am. I'll meet you back here when you're done. Don't disappoint me." After that, I must have fainted or fallen into a trance or something, because when I opened my eyes again, Ares was gone. I might have thought the conversation had been a dream, but Annabeth and Grover's expression told me otherwise. "Not good," Grover said. "Ares sought you out, Percy. This is not good. I stared out the window. The motorcycle had disappeared. Did Aries really know something about my mom? Or was he just playing with me? Now that he was gone, all the anger had drained out of me. I realized Aries must love to mess with people's emotions. That was his power, cranking up a passion so badly that it crowded your ability to think. It's probably just some kind of trick, I said. Forget about Aries. Let's just go. We can't, Annabeth said. Look, I hate Aries as much as anybody, but you don't ignore the gods unless you want serious bad fortune. He wasn't kidding about turning you into a rodent. I looked down at my cheeseburger, which suddenly didn't seem so appetizing. Why does he need us? Maybe it's a problem that requires brains? Annabeth said. Aries has strength, but that's all he has. Even strength has to bow to wisdom sometimes. But this water park, he acted almost scared. What would make a war god run away like that? Annabeth and Grover glanced nervously at each other. Annabeth said, I'm afraid we'll have to find out. The sun was sinking behind the mountains by the time we found the water park. Judging from the sign, it had once been called Waterland. But now some of the letters were smashed out, so it read, Watch Red. The main gate was padlocked and topped with barbed wire. Inside, huge dry water slides and tubes and pipes curled everywhere, leading to empty pools. Old tickets and advertisements fluttered around the asphalt. With night coming on, the place looked sad and creepy. If Aries brings his girlfriend here for a date, I said, staring up the barbed wire, I'd hate to see what she looks like. Percy, Annabeth warned, be more respectful. Why? I thought you hated Aries. He's still a god, and his girlfriend is very temperamental. Yeah, you don't want to insult her looks, Grover added. Who is she? Echidna? No, Aphrodite, Grover said, a little dreamily. Goddess of love. I thought she was married to somebody, I said. Hephaestus, I think? What's your point? He asked. Oh. I suddenly felt the need to change the subject. So, how do we get in? Maya! Grover's shoes sprouted wings. He flew over the fence, did an unintended somersault in midair, and then stumbled into a landing on the opposite side. He dusted off his jeans as if he planned the entire thing. You guys coming? Annabeth and I had to climb the old-fashioned way, holding down the barbed wire for each other as we crawled over the top. The shadows grew long as we walked to the park, checking out the attractions. There was Ankle-Biter Island, Head Over Wedgie, and Dude, Where's My Swimsuit? No monsters came to get us. Nothing made the slightest noise. We found a souvenir shop that had been left open. Merchandise still lined the shelves. Snow globes, pencils, postcards, and racks of clothes, Amba said. Fresh clothes. Yeah, I said, but you can't just watch me. She snatched an entire row of stuff off the racks and disappeared into the changing room. A few minutes later, she came out in Waterland flower-printed shorts, a big red Waterland t-shirt, and a commemorative Waterland surf shoes. A Waterland backpack was slung over her shoulder, obviously stuffed with more goodies. What the heck? Grover said. Grover shrugged. Soon, all three of us were decked out like walking advertisements for the defunct theme park. We continued searching for the Tunnel of Love. I got the feeling that the whole park was holding its breath. So, Aries and Aphrodite, I said, trying to keep my mind off the growing dark. They have a thing going? That's old gossip, Percy, Annabeth told me. 3,000-year-old gossip. But what about Aphrodite's husband? Well, you know, she said. Hephaestus, the blacksmith, he was crippled when he was a baby and thrown off Mount Olympus by Zeus, so he isn't exactly handsome. Clever with his hands and all, but Aphrodite isn't into brains and talent, you know? She likes bikers? Whatever. Hephaestus knows? Oh, sure, Annabeth said. He caught them together once. I mean, literally caught them in a golden net and invited all the gods to come and laugh at them. Hephaestus is always trying to embarrass them. That's why they meet in out-of-the-way places, like... She stopped, looking straight ahead. Like that. In front of us was an empty pool that would have been awesome for skateboarding. It was at least 50 yards across and shaped like a bowl. Around the rim, a dozen bronze statues of Cupid stood guard with wings spread and bows ready to fire. On the opposite side from us, a tunnel opened up, probably where the water flowed into when the pool was full. The sign above it read, thrill ride of love. This is not your parents' tunnel of love. Grover crept toward the edge. Hey guys, look. Marooned at the bottom of the pool was a pink and white two-seater boat with a canopy over the top and little hearts painted all over it. In the left seat, glinting in the faded light, was Ares' shield, a polished circle of bronze. This is too easy, I said. So what, we just walk down there and get it? Annabeth ran her fingers along the base of the nearest Cupid statue. There's a Greek letter carved in here, she said. Etta, I wonder. Grover, I said, do you smell any monsters? He sniffed the wind. No, nothing. Nothing like in the ark and you didn't smell a echidna, nothing, or really nothing. Grover looked hurt. I told you, that was underground. Okay, I'm sorry. I took a deep breath. But I'm going to go down there. I'll go with you. Grover didn't sound too enthusiastic, but I got the feeling he was trying to make up for what had happened in St. Louis. No, I told him. I want you to stay up top with the flying shoes. You're the Red Baron, remember? A flying ace? I'll be counting on you for backup in case something goes wrong. Grover puffed up his chest a little. Sure, but what could go wrong? I don't know. Just a feeling. Annabeth, come with me. Are you kidding? She looked at me as if I just dropped it from the moon. Her cheeks were bright red. What's the problem now? I demanded. Me. Go with you to the thrill ride of love? How embarrassing is that? What if somebody saw me? Who's going to see you? But my face was burning now, too. I'll leave it to a girl to make everything complicated. Fine, I told her. I'll do it myself. But when I started down the side of the pool, she followed me, muttering about how boys always mess things up. We reached the boat. The shield was propped up on one seat, and next to it was a lady's silk scarf. I tried to imagine Ares and Aphrodite here, a couple of gods meeting in a junked-out amusement park ride. Why? Then I noticed something I hadn't seen from the top. Mirrors all the way around the rim of the pool, facing this spot. We could see ourselves no matter what direction we looked. That must be it. While Ares and Aphrodite were smooching with each other, they could look at their favorite people in the world. Themselves. I picked up the scarf. It shimmered pink, and the perfume was indescribable. Rose or mountain laurel. Something good. I smiled, a little dreamily, and was about to rub the scarf against my cheek when Annabeth ripped it out of my hands and stuffed it in her pocket. Oh, no you don't. You stay away from that love magic. What? Just get the shield, seaweed brain. Let's get out of here. The moment I touched the shield, I knew we were in trouble. My hand broke through something that had been connecting it to the dashboard. A cobweb, I thought. But then I looked at the strand of it in my palm and saw it was some kind of metal filament. So fine it was almost invisible. A tripwire. Wait, Annabeth said. Too late. There's a Greek letter on the side of the boat. Another Etta. This is a trap. Noise erupted all around us. Millions of gears grinding, as if the whole pool were turning into one giant machine. Grover yelled, Guys! Up on the rim, the Cupid statues were drawing their bows into a firing position. Before I could suggest taking cover, they shot. But not at us. They fired at each other, across the rim of the pool. Silky cables trailed from the arrows, arcing over the pool and anchoring where they landed to form a huge golden asterisk. Then smaller metallic threads started weaving together magically between the main strands, making a net. We have to get out, I said. Duh, Annabeth said. I grabbed the shield and we ran, but going up the slope of the pool was not as easy as going down it. Come on, Grover shouted. He was trying to hold open a section of the net for us, but wherever he touched, the golden threads started to wrap around his hands. The Cupid's heads popped open. Out came video cameras. Spotlights rose up all around the pool, blinding us with illumination, and a loudspeaker voice boomed. Live to Olympus in 1 minute. 59 seconds. 58. Hephaestus! Annabeth screamed. I'm so stupid! Etta is H. He made the trap to catch his wife with Ares, and now we're going to be broadcast live to Olympus and look like absolute fools! We'd almost made it to the rim when a row of mirrors opened like hatches, and thousands of tiny metallic things poured out. Annabeth screamed. It was an army of wind-up, creepy crawlies, bronze-geared bodies, spindly legs, and little pincher mouths, all scuttling toward us in a wave of clacking, whirring metal. "Spiders!" Annabeth said. Ah! I'd never seen her like this before. She fell backward in terror and almost got overwhelmed by the spider robots before I pulled her up and dragged her back toward the boat. The things were coming out from all around the rim now, millions of them, flooding toward the center of the pool, completely surrounding us. I told myself they probably weren't programmed to kill, just corral us and bite us and make us look stupid. But then again, this was a trap meant for gods, and we weren't gods. Annabeth and I climbed into the boat. I started kicking away the spiders as they swarmed aboard. I yelled at Annabeth to help me, but she was too paralyzed to do much more than scream. 30, 29, called the loudspeaker. The spiders started spitting out strands of metal thread, trying to tie us down. The strands were easy enough to break at first, but there were so many of them, and the spiders just kept coming. I kicked one away from Annabeth's leg, and its pinchers took a chunk out of my brand new surf shoe. Grover hovered above the pool in his flying sneakers, trying to pull the net loose, but it wouldn't budge. Think, I told myself. Think. The Tunnel of Love entrance was under the net. We could use it as an exit, except that it was blocked by millions of tiny robot spiders. 15, 14, the loudspeaker called again. Water, I thought. Where does this ride's water come from? Then I saw them, huge water pipes behind the mirrors, where the spiders had come from. And up above the net, next to one of the cupids, a glass window booth that must be a controller station. "Grover," I yelled, "get into that booth! Find the on switch!" But do it! It was a crazy hope, but it was our only chance. The spiders were all over the prow of the boat now, and Annabeth was screaming her head off. I had to get us out of there. Grover was in the controller's booth now, slamming away at the buttons. 5, 4... Grover looked up at me hopelessly, raising his hands. He was letting me know that he pushed every button, but still nothing was happening. I closed my eyes and thought about waves, rushing water, the Mississippi River. I felt a familiar tug in my gut. I tried to imagine that I was dragging the ocean all the way to Denver. 2, 1, 0. Water exploded out of the pipes. It roared into the pool, sweeping away the spiders. I pulled Annabeth into the seat next to me and fastened her seatbelt just as a tidal wave slammed into our boat, over the top, whisking the spiders away and dousing us completely, but not capsizing us. The boat turned, lifted in the flood, and spun in circles around the whirlpool. The water was full of short-circuiting spiders. Some of them smashed against the pool's concrete wall with such force they burst. Spotlights glared down at us. The Cupid cams were rolling, live to Mount Olympus. But I could only concentrate on controlling the boat. I willed it to ride the current, to keep away from the wall, maybe with my imagination, but the boat seemed to respond. At least it didn't break into a million pieces. We spun around one last time, the water level now almost high enough to shred us against the metal net. Then the boat's nose turned toward the tunnel, and we rocketed through into the darkness. Annabeth and I held on tight, both of us screaming as the boat shot curls and hugged corners and took 45-degree plunges past pictures of Romeo and Juliet and a bunch of other Valentine's Day stuff. Then we were out of the tunnel, the night air whistling through our hair as the boat barreled straight toward the exit. If the ride had been in working order, we would have sailed off a ramp between the Golden Gates of Love and splashed down safely in the exit pool. But there was a problem. The Gates of Love were chained. 2 boats that had been washed out of the tunnel before us were now piled against the barricade, one submerged and the other cracked in half. "Unfasten your seatbelt," I yelled to Annabeth. "Are you crazy?" "Unless you want to get smashed to death." I strapped Ares' shield to my arm. "We're going to have to jump for it." My idea was simple and insane. As the boat struck, we would use its force like a springboard to jump the gate. I'd heard of people surviving car crashes that way, getting thrown 30 or 40 feet away from the accident. With luck, we would land in the pool. Annabeth seemed to understand. She gripped my hand as the gate got closer. "On my mark," I said. "No, on my mark." "What?" "Simple physics," she yelled. "Force times trajectory, angle." "Fine," I shouted. "On your mark." She hesitated, and then yelled. "Now!" Crack! Annabeth was right. If we jumped when I thought we should have, we would have crashed into the gate. She got us maximum lift. Unfortunately, that was a little bit more than we needed. Our boat smashed into the pileup and we were thrown into the air, straight over the gates, over the pool, and down toward the solid asphalt. Something grabbed me from behind. Annabeth yelled, "Ouch!" Grover, in midair, he had grabbed me by the shirt and Annabeth by the arm and was trying to pull us out of a crash landing. But Annabeth and I had all the momentum. "You're too heavy," Grover said. "We're going down." We spiraled toward the ground, Grover doing his best to slow the fall. We smashed into a photo board, Grover's head going straight into the hole where the tourists put their faces, pretending to be Nunu the friendly whale. Annabeth and I stumbled to the ground, banged up, but alive. Ares' shield was still on my arm. Once we caught our breath, Annabeth and I got Grover out of the photo board and thanked him for saving our lives. I looked back at the thrill ride of love. The water was subsiding. Our boat had been smashed into pieces against the gates. 100 yards away at the entrance pool, the Cupids were still filming. The statues had swiveled so that their cameras were trained straight toward us, spotlights on our faces. "Show's over," I yelled. "Good, thank you, and good night." The Cupids turned back to their original position. The lights shut off. The park went quiet and dark again, except for the gentle trickle of water into the Thrill Ride of Love's exit pool. I wondered if Olympus had gone to commercial break, or if our ratings had been any good. I hated being teased. I hated being tricked. And I had plenty of experience handling bullies who liked to do that stuff to me. I hefted the shield on my arm and turned to my friends. "We need to have a little talk with Ares." And there you have the end of chapter 15. Chapter 16. We take a zebra to Vegas. The war god was waiting for us in the diner parking lot. "Well, well," he said, "you didn't get yourself killed." "You knew it was a trap," I said. Ares gave me a wicked grin. Bet that crippled blacksmith was surprised when he netted a couple stupid kids. "You look good on TV." I shoved his shield at him. "You're a jerk." Annabeth and Grover caught their breath. Ares grabbed the shield and spun it in the air like a pizza dough. It changed form, melting into a bulletproof vest. He slung it across his back. "See that truck over there?" He pointed to an 18-wheeler parked across the street from the diner. "That's your ride. Take you straight to L.A., with one stop in Vegas." The 18-wheeler had a sign on the back, which I could only read because it was reverse printed, white on black. A good combination for dyslexia. "Kindness International, Humane Zoo Transport. Warning, live wild animals." I said, "You're kidding." Ares snapped his fingers. The back door of the truck unlatched. "Free ride west, punk. Stop complaining. Oh, and here's a little something for doing the job." He slung a blue nylon backpack off his handlebars and tossed it to me. Inside were fresh clothes for all of us, $20 in cash, a pouch full of golden drachmas, and a bag of double-stuffed Oreos. I said, "I don't want your lousy—" "Thank you, Lord Ares," Grover interrupted, giving me his best red alert warning look. "Thank you a lot." I gritted my teeth. It was probably a deadly insult to refuse something from a god, but I didn't want anything that Ares had touched. Reluctantly, I slung the backpack over my shoulder. I knew my anger was being caused by the war god's presence, but I was still itching to punch him in the nose. He reminded me of every bully I'd ever faced. Nancy Bobofit, Clarice, Smelly Gabe, sarcastic teachers, every jerk who'd called me stupid in school or laughed at me when I'd gotten expelled. I looked back at the diner, which had only a couple customers now. The waitress who'd served us dinner was watching nervously out the window. It was as though she was afraid Ares might hurt us. She dragged a fry cook out of the kitchen to see. She said something to him. He nodded, held up a little disposable camera, and snapped a picture of us. Great, I thought. We'll make the papers again tomorrow. I imagined the headline. 12-year-old outlaw beats up defenseless biker. You owe me one more thing, I told Ares, trying to keep my voice level. You promised me information about my mother. You sure you can handle the news? He kick-started his motorcycle. She's not dead. The ground seemed to spin beneath me. What do you mean? I mean, she was taken away from the Minotaur before she could die. She was turned into a shower of gold, right? That's metamorphosis, not death. She's being kept. Kept? Why? You need to study war, punk. Hostages. You take somebody to control somebody else. Nobody's controlling me. He laughed. Oh, yeah? Sure. See you around, kid. I balled up my fist. You're pretty smug, Lord Ares, for a guy who runs from Cupid statues. Behind his glasses, the fire glowed. I felt hot wind in my hair. We'll meet again, Percy Jackson. Next time you're in a fight, watch your back. He revved his Harley and then roared off down Delancey Street. Annabeth said, That was not smart, Percy. I don't care. You don't want a god as your enemy, especially not that god. Hey, guys, Grover said. I hate to interrupt, but... He pointed toward the diner. At the register, the last 2 customers were paying their check. 2 men in identical black overalls, a white logo on their backs that matched the one for the Kindness International truck. If we're taking the Zoo Express, Grover said, we need to hurry. I didn't like it, but we had no better option. Besides, I'd seen enough of Denver. We ran across the street and climbed into the back of the big rig, closing the door behind us. The first thing that hit me was the smell. It was like the world's biggest pan of kitty litter. The trailer was dark inside until I uncapped Riptide. The blade cast a faint bronze glow over a very sad scene. Sitting in a row of filthy metal cages were 3 of the most pathetic zoo animals I'd ever beheld. A zebra, a male albino lion, and some weird antelope thing I didn't know the name for. Someone had thrown the lion a sack of turnips, which he obviously didn't want to eat, and the zebra and antelope had each gotten a styrofoam tray of hamburger meat. The zebra's mane was matted with chewing gum, like somebody had been spitting it in their spare time. The antelope had a stupid silver birthday balloon tied to one of his horns that read, Over the Hill. Apparently, nobody wanted to get close enough to the lion to mess with him, but the poor thing was pacing around on soiled blankets in a space way too small for him. Panting from the stuffy heat of the trailer, he had flies buzzing around his pink eyes, and his ribs showed through his white fur. This is kindness? Grover yelled. Humane zoo transport? He probably would have gone right back outside to beat up the truckers with his reed pipes, and I would have helped him. But just then the truck's engine roared to life and the trailer started shaking, and we were forced to sit down or fall down. We huddled in the corner on some millweed feed sacks, trying to ignore the smell and the heat and the flies. Grover talked to the animals in a series of goat bleats, but they just stared at him sadly. Annabeth was in favor of breaking the cages and freeing them on the spot, but I pointed out it wouldn't do so much good until the truck stopped moving. Besides, I had a feeling we might look a whole lot better to the lion than those turnips. I found a water jug and refilled their bowls, then used Riptide to drag the mismatched food out of their cages. I gave the meat to the lion and the turnips to the zebra and the antelope. Grover calmed the antelope down while Annabeth used her knife to cut the balloon off its horn. She wanted to cut the gum out of the zebra's mane too, but we decided that would be too risky with the truck bumping around. We told Grover to promise the animals we would help them in the morning, and then we settled in for the night. Grover curled up on a turnip sack. Annabeth opened our bag of double-stuffed Oreos and nibbled on one half-heartedly. I tried to cheer myself up by concentrating on the fact that we were halfway to Los Angeles, halfway to our destination. And it was only June 14th. The solstice wasn't until the 21st. We could make it in plenty of time. On the other hand, I had no idea what to expect next. The gods kept toying with me. At least Hephaestus had the decency to be honest about it. He put up cameras and advertised me as entertainment. But even when the cameras weren't rolling, I had a feeling my quest was being watched. I was a source of amusement for the gods. Hey, Annabeth said. Look, I'm sorry for freaking out the water park, Percy. That's okay. It's just... She shuddered. Spiders. Ugh. Because of the Arachne story, I guess? She got turned into a spider for challenging your mom to a weeding contest, right? Annabeth nodded. Arachne's children have been taking revenge on the children of Athena ever since. If there's a spider within a mile of me, it'll find me. I hate the creepy little things. Anyways, I owe you one. Hey, we're a team, remember? I said. Besides, Grover did the fancy flying. I thought he was asleep, but he mumbled from the corner. I was pretty amazing, wasn't I? Annabeth and I laughed. She pulled apart an Oreo and handed me half. Hey, in the Iris message, did Luke really say nothing? I munched on my cookie and thought about how to answer. The conversation via Rainbow had bothered me all evening. Luke said you and he go way back. He also said Grover wouldn't fail this time, and nobody would get turned into a pine tree. In the dim bronze light of the sword blade, it was hard to read their expressions. Grover let out a mournful bray. I should have told you the truth from the beginning, his voice trembled. I thought if you knew what a failure I was, you wouldn't want me along. You were the satyr who tried to rescue Talia, the daughter of Zeus, I asked. He nodded glumly. And the other two half-bloods Talia befriended, the ones who got safely to camp? I looked at Annabeth. That was you and Luke, wasn't it? She put down her Oreo, uneaten. Like you said, Percy, a 7-year-old half-blood wouldn't have made it very far alone. Athena guided me towards help, and Talia was 12, Luke was 14. They'd both run away from home. Just like me. They were happy to take me with them. They were amazing monster fighters, even without any training. We traveled north from Virginia, without any real plans, fending off monsters for about 2 weeks before Grover found us. I was supposed to escort Talia to camp, he said, sniffling. Only Talia. I had strict orders from Chiron. Don't do anything that would slow down the rescue. We knew Hades was after her, see, but I couldn't just leave Luke and Annabeth by themselves. I thought I could lead all three of them to safety. It was my fault the kindly ones caught up with us. I froze. I got scared on the way back to camp, and I took some wrong turns. If I'd just been a little quicker. Stop it, Annabeth said. No one blames you. Talia didn't blame you either. She sacrificed herself to save us, he said miserably. Her death was my fault. The Council of Cloven Elders said so. What, because you wouldn't leave 2 other half-bloods behind? I said. That's not fair. Percy's right, Annabeth said. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for you, Grover. Neither would Luke. We don't care what the Council says. Grover kept sniffling in the dark. It's just my luck. I'm the lamest satyr ever. And I find the 2 most powerful half-bloods of the century, Talia and Percy. You're not lame, Annabeth insisted. You've got more courage than any satyr I've ever met. Name one other who would dare go to the underworld. I bet Percy is really glad you're here right now. She kicked me in the shin. Yeah, I said, which I would have done even without the kick. It's not luck you found Talia and me, Grover. You've got the biggest heart of any satyr ever. You're a natural searcher. That's why you'll be the one who finds Pan. I heard a deep, satisfied sigh. I waited for Grover to say something, but his breathing only got heavier, and then the sound turned into snoring. I realized he'd fallen asleep. How does he do that? I marveled. I don't know, Annabeth said. But that was a really nice thing you told him. I meant it. We rode in silence for a few miles, bumping around on the feed stacks. The zebra munched on a turnip. The lion licked the last of the hamburger meat off his lips and looked at me hopefully. Annabeth rubbed her necklace like she was thinking deep, strategic thoughts. The pine tree bead, I said. Is that from your first year? She looked. She hadn't even realized what she was doing. Yeah, she said. Every August, the counselors picked the most important event of the summer, and they painted on that year's bead. I've got Talia's pine tree, a Greek treme on fire, a centaur in a prom dress. Now that was a weird summer. And the college ring is your father's? That's none of your... She stopped herself. Yeah, it is. You don't have to tell me. No, it's okay. She took a shaky breath. My dad sent me it folded up in a letter about 2 summers ago. The ring was like his main keepsake from Athena. He wouldn't have gotten through his doctoral program at Harvard without her. That's a long story, too. Anyway, he said he wanted me to have it. He apologized for being a jerk, said he loved me and he missed me, and he wanted me to come home and live with him. That doesn't sound so bad. Yeah, well, the problem was, I believed him. I tried to go home for school that year, but my stepmom was the same as ever. She didn't want her kids put in danger by living with a freak. Monsters attacked, we argued. Monsters attacked, we argued. I didn't even make it through winter break. I called Chiron and came back to Camp Half-Blood. You think you'll ever try living with your dad again? She wouldn't meet my eyes. Please, I'm not into self-inflicting pain. You shouldn't give up, I told her. You should write him a letter or something. Yeah, thanks for the advice, she said coldly, but my father's made his choice about who he wants to live with. We passed another few miles in silence. So, if the gods fight, I said, will things line up the way they did at the Trojan War? Will it be Athena versus Poseidon again? She put her head against the backpack the Ares had given us and closed her eyes. I don't know what my mom will do. I just know that I will fight next to you. Why? Because you're my friend, seaweed brain. Any more stupid questions? I couldn't think of an answer to that. Fortunately, I didn't have to. Annabeth had fallen asleep. I had trouble following her example, with Grover snoring and an albino lion staring hungrily at me. But eventually, I closed my eyes. My nightmare started out as something I dreamed a million times before. I was being forced to take a standardized test while wearing a straitjacket. All the other kids were going out to recess, but the teacher kept saying, "Come on, Percy, you're not stupid, are you? Pick up your pencil." Then the dream strayed from the usual. I looked over at the next desk and saw a girl sitting there, also wearing a straitjacket. She was my age, with unruly black punk-style hair, dark eyeliner around her stormy eyes, and freckles across her nose. Somehow I knew who she was. She was Talia, the daughter of Zeus. She struggled against the straitjacket, glared at me in frustration, and snapped, "Well, seaweed brain, one of us has to get out of here." She's right, my dream self thought. I'm going back to that cavern. I'm going to give Hades a piece of my mind. The straitjacket melted off me. I fell through the classroom floor. The teacher's voice changed until it was cold and evil, echoing from the depths of a great chasm. "Percy Jackson," it said. "Yes, the exchange went well, I see." I was back in the dark cavern, spirits of the dead drifting around me. Unseen in the pit, the monstrous thing was speaking. But this time, it wasn't addressing me. The numbing power of his voice seemed directed somewhere else. "And he suspects nothing?" it asked. Another voice, one I almost recognized, answered at my shoulder. "Nothing, my lord. He is as ignorant as the rest." I looked over, but no one was there. The speaker was invisible. "Deception upon deception," the thing in the pit mused aloud. "Excellent." "Truly, my lord," said the voice next to me. "You are well named the Crooked One. But was it really necessary? I could have brought you what I stole directly." "You," said the monster in scorn. "You have already shown your limits. You would have failed me completely had I not intervened." "But, my lord—" "Peace, little servant. Our 6 months have brought us much. Zeus's anger has grown. Poseidon has played his most desperate card, and now we shall use it against him. Shortly you shall have the reward you wish and your revenge, as soon as both items are delivered into my hands. But wait. He is here." "What?" The invisible servant suddenly sounded tense. "You summoned him, my lord?" "No." The full force of the monster's attention was now pouring over me, freezing me in place. Blast his father's blood! He is too changeable, too unpredictable. The boy brought himself hither. "Impossible!" the servant cried. "For a weakling such as you, perhaps," the voice snarled. Then its cold power turned back on me. "So, you wish to dream of your quest, young half-blood? Then I will oblige." The scene changed. I was standing in a vast throne room with black marble walls and bronze floors. The empty, horrid throne was made from human bones fused together. Standing at the foot of the dais was my mother, frozen in shimmering gold light, her arms outstretched. But my legs wouldn't move. I reached for her only to realize that my hands were withering to bones. Grinning skeletons in Greek armor crowded around me, draping me with silk robes, wreathing my head with laurels that smoked with chimera poison, burning into my scalp. The evil voice began to laugh. "Hail the conquering hero!" I woke with a start. Grover was shaking my shoulder. "Hey, the truck stopped," he said. "We think they're coming to check on the animals." "Hide!" Annabeth hissed. She had it easy. She just put on her magic cap and disappeared. Grover and I had to dive behind the feed sacks and hope that we looked like turnips. The trailer door creaked open. Sunlight and heat poured in. "Oh, man," one of the truckers said, waving his hand in front of his ugly nose. "Oh, I wish I hauled appliances." He climbed inside and poured some water from a jug into the animal's dishes. "You hot, big boy?" he asked the lion, then splashed the rest of the bucket right on the lion's face. The lion roared in indignation. Yeah, the man said. Next to me, under the turnip sacks, Grover tensed. For a peace-loving herbivore, he looked downright murderous. The truck driver threw the antelope a squash-looking Happy Meal bag. He smirked at the zebra. "How you doing, Stripes? At least we'll be getting rid of you this stop. You like magic shows? You're gonna love this one. They're gonna saw you in half." The zebra, wild-eyed with fear, looked straight at me. There was no sound, but clear as day, I heard it say, "Free me, Lord, please." I was too stunned to react. Then there was a loud knock, knock, knock on the side of the trailer. The trucker inside with us yelled, "What do you want, Eddie?" A voice outside, it must have been Eddie's, shouted back, "Maurice, what'd you say? What are you banging for?" Knock, knock, knock. Outside, Eddie yelled, "What banging?" Our guy Maurice rolled his eyes and went back outside, cursing at Eddie for being an idiot. A second later, Annabeth appeared next to me. She must have done the banging to get Maurice out of the trailer. She said this transport business can't be legal. "No kidding," Grover said. He paused as if listening. "The lion says these guys are animal smugglers." "That's right," the zebra's voice said in my mind. "We've got to free them," Grover said. He and Annabeth looked at me, waiting for my lead. I'd heard the zebra talk, but not the lion? Why? Maybe it was another learning disability. I could only understand zebras. Then I thought. Horses. What had Annabeth said about Poseidon creating horses? Was a zebra close enough to a horse? Was that why I could understand it? The zebra said, "Open my cage, Lord, please. I'll be fine after that." Outside, Eddie and Maurice were still yelling at each other, but I knew they'd be coming inside to torment the animals again any minute. I grabbed Riptide and slashed the lock off the zebra's cage. The zebra burst out. It turned toward me and bowed. "Thank you, my lord." Grover held up his hands and said something to the zebra in goat talk. It sounded like a blessing. Just as Maurice was poking his head back inside to check out the noise, the zebra leapt over him and into the street. There was yelling and screaming and cars honking. We rushed to the doors of the trailer just in time to see the zebra galloping down a wild boulevard lined with hotels and casinos and neon signs. We'd just released a zebra in Las Vegas. Maurice and Eddie ran after it, with a few policemen running after them, shouting, "Hey, you need a permit for that." "Hey, now would be a good time to leave," Annabeth said. "The other animals first," Grover demanded. I cut the locks with my sword. Grover raised his hands and spoke the same goat blessing that he used for the zebra. "Good luck," I told the animals. The antelope and the lion burst out of their cages and went off together into the streets. Some tourists screamed. Most just backed off and took pictures, probably thinking it was some kind of a stunt by one of the casinos. "Will the animals be okay?" I asked Grover. "I mean, the desert and all." "Don't worry," he said. "I placed a satyr sanctuary on them." "Meaning?" "Meaning they'll reach the wild safely," he said. "They'll find water, food, shelter, shade, whatever they need until they find a safe place to live." "Why can't you place a blessing like that on us?" I said. "It only works on animals." "So it would only affect Percy?" Annabeth reasoned. "Hey!" I protested. "Kidding," she said. "Come on, let's get out of this filthy truck." We stumbled out into the desert afternoon. It was 110 degrees easy, and we must have looked like deep-fried vagrants. But everybody was too interested in the wild animals to pay us much attention. We passed the Monte Carlo and the MGM. We passed pyramids, a pirate ship, the Statue of Liberty, which looked like a pretty small replica, but still made me homesick. I wasn't sure what we were looking for. Maybe just a place to get out of the heat for a few minutes. Find a sandwich and a glass of lemonade, make a new plan for getting west. We must have taken a wrong turn, because we found ourselves at a dead end, standing in front of the Lotus Hotel and Casino. The entrance was a huge neon flower, with the petals lighting up and blinking. No one was going in or out. but the glittering chrome doors were open, spilling out air conditioning that smelled like flowers. Lotus blossom, maybe. I'd never smelled one, so I wasn't sure. The doorman smiled at us. Hey, kids, you look tired. Want to come in and sit down? I'd learned to be suspicious in the last week or so. I figured that anybody might be a monster or a god. You just couldn't tell. But this guy was normal. One look at him and I could see. Besides, I was so relieved to hear somebody who sounded sympathetic that I nodded and said we'd love to come in. Inside, we took one look around, and Grover said, Whoa. The whole lobby was a giant game room. And I'm not talking about some cheesy old Pac-Man game or slot machines. There was an indoor water slide snaking around the glass elevator, which went straight up at least 40 floors. There was a climbing wall on the side of one building, and an indoor bungee jumping bridge. There was a virtual reality suit with working laser guns and hundreds of video games, each one the size of a widescreen TV. Basically, you name it, and this place had it. There were a few other kids playing, but not that many. No waiting for any of the games either. There were waitresses and snack bars all around, serving any kind of food you could imagine. Hey, a bellhop said. At least I guess he was a bellhop. He wore a white and yellow Hawaiian shirt with a Lotus design, shorts, and flip-flops. Welcome to the Lotus Casino. Here's your room key. I stammered. But, No, he said, laughing. The bill's taken care of. No extra charges, no tips. We just go up to the top floor, room 4001. If you need anything, like extra bubbles for the hot tub or skeet targets for the shooting range or whatever, just call the front desk. Here's your Lotus Cash cards. They work in the restaurants and in all the games and rides. He handed us each a green plastic credit card. I knew there must be some mistake. Obviously, he thought we were some millionaire's kids. But I took the card and said, How much is on here? His eyebrows knit together. What do you mean? I mean, when does it run out of cash? He laughed. Oh, you're making a joke. Hey, that's cool. Enjoy your stay. We took the elevator upstairs and checked out our room. It was a suite with 3 separate bedrooms and a bar stocked with candy, soda, and chips, a hotline to room service, fluffy towels and waterbeds with feather pillows, a big screen television with satellite and high-speed internet. The balcony had its own hot tub, and sure enough, there was a skeet shooting machine and a shotgun, so you could launch clay pigeons right out over the Las Vegas skyline and plug them with your gun. That's pretty cool. I didn't see how that could be illegal, but I thought it was pretty cool. The view over the strip and the desert was amazing, though I doubted we'd find the time to look at the view with a room like this. Oh, goodness, Annabeth said. This place is sweet. Grover said, absolutely sweet. There were clothes in the closet, and they fit me. I frowned, thinking that this was a little strange. I threw Aries' backpack in the trash can. Well, wouldn't need that anymore. When we left, I could just charge a new one at the hotel store. I took a shower, which felt awesome after a week of grimy travel. I changed clothes, ate a bag of chips, drank 3 Cokes, and came out feeling better than I had in a long time. In the back of my mind, some small problem kept nagging at me. I'd had a dream or something. I needed to talk to my friends. But I was sure that could wait. I came out of the bedroom and found that Annabeth and Grover had also showered and changed clothes. Grover was eating potato chips to his heart's content, while Annabeth cranked up the National Geographic channel. All those stations, I told her, and you turn on National Geographic. Are you insane? It's interesting. I feel good, Grover said. I love this place. Without even realizing it, the wings sprouted out of his shoes and lifted him a foot off the ground, and then back down again. So what now? Annabeth said. Sleep? Grover and I looked at each other and grinned. We both held up our green plastic Lotus Cash cards. Playtime, I said. I couldn't remember the last time I'd had so much fun. I came from a relatively poor family. Our idea of a splurge was eating out at Burger King and renting a video. A 5-star Vegas hotel? Forget it. I bungee jumped the lobby 5 or 6 times, did the water slide, snowboarded the artificial ski slope, played virtual reality laser tag and FBI sharpshooter. I saw Grover a few times, going from game to game. He really liked the reverse hunter thing, where the deer go out and shoot the rednecks. I saw Annabeth playing trivia games and other Brainiac stuff. They had this huge 3D sim game where you build your own city, and you could actually see the holographic buildings rise up on the display board. I didn't think much of it, but Annabeth loved it. I'm not sure when I first realized something was wrong. Probably it was when I noticed the guy standing next to me at the VR sharpshooters. He was about 13, I guess, but his clothes were weird. I thought he was some Elvis impersonator's son. He wore bell-bottom jeans and a red t-shirt with a black piping. His hair was permed and gelled like the New Jersey girls on homecoming night. We played a game of sharpshooters together, and he said, "Groovy, man. Been here 2 weeks, and the games just keep getting better and better." Groovy? Later, while we were talking, I said something was sick, and he looked at me kind of startled, as if he'd never heard the word used that way before. He said his name was Darren, but as soon as I started asking him questions, he got bored with me and started to go back to the computer screen. I said, "Hey, Darren." "What? What year is it?" He frowned at me. "In the game?" "No, in real life." He had to think about it. 1977. "No," I said, getting a little scared. "Really?" "Hey, man, bad vibes. I got a game happening." After that, he totally ignored me. I started talking to people, and I found out it wasn't easy. They were glued to the TV screen, or the video game, or the food, or whatever. I found a guy who told me it was 1985, another guy who told me it was 1993. They all claimed they hadn't been here that long. A few days, a few weeks at most. They didn't really know, and they didn't care. Then it occurred to me, how long had I been here? It seemed like only a couple hours, but was it? I tried to remember why we were here. We were going to Los Angeles. We were supposed to find the entrance to the underworld. My mother, for a scary second, I had trouble remembering her name. Sally Jackson. I had to find her. I have to find Sally Jackson. I had to stop Hades from causing World War III. I found Annabeth still building her city. "Come on," I told her. "We've got to get out of here." No response. I shook her. "Annabeth." She looked up, annoyed. "What?" "We need to leave." "Leave? What are you talking about?" "I just got the towers. This place is a trap." She didn't respond until I shook her again. "What?" "Listen. The underworld? Our quest?" "Oh, come on, Percy. Just a few more minutes." "Annabeth, there are people here from 1977. Kids who never aged. You check in and you stay forever." "So?" she asked. "Can you imagine a better place?" I grabbed her wrist, yanked her away from the game. "Hey!" She screamed and hit me, but nobody else even bothered looking at us. They were all too busy. I made her look directly in my eyes. I said, "Spiders. Large, hairy spiders." That jarred her. Her vision cleared. Oh my gods," she said. How long have we..." "I don't know, but we've got to find Grover." We went searching and found him still playing virtual deer hunter. "Grover!" we both shouted. He said, "Die, human! Die, silly, polluting, nasty person!" "Grover!" He turned the plastic gun on me and started clicking, as if I were just another image on the screen. I looked at Annabeth, and together we took Grover by the arms and dragged him away. His flying shoes sprang into life and started tugging his legs in the other direction as he shouted, "No! I just got to a new level! No!" The Lotus bellhop hurried toward us. "Well, now are you ready for your platinum cards?" "We're leaving," I told him. "Oh, such a shame," he said. I got the feeling that he really meant it, and that we'd be breaking his heart if we went. We just added an entire new floor of games for platinum card members. He held up the cards, and I wanted one. I knew that if I took one, I'd never leave. I'd stay here, happy, forever, playing games forever, and soon I'd forget my mom, my quest, and maybe even my own name. I'd be playing Virtual Rifleman with Groovy Disco Darren forever. Grover reached for the card, but Annabeth yanked back his arm and said, "No thanks." We walked to the door, and as we did, the smell of food and the sound of games seemed to get more and more inviting. I thought about our room upstairs. We could just stay the night, sleep in a real bed for once. Then we burst through the doors of the Lotus Casino, and we ran down the sidewalk. It felt like afternoon, about the same time of the day we'd gone into the casino, but something was wrong. The weather had completely changed. It was stormy, with heat, lightning flashing out in the desert. Aries' backpack was slung over my shoulder, which was odd because I'm sure I threw it away in the trash can in room 4001. But at that moment, I had other problems to worry about. I ran to the nearest newspaper stand and read the year first. Thank the gods, it was still the same year it had been when we went in. Then I noticed the date, June 20th. We had been in the Lotus Casino for 5 days. We only had 1 day left until the summer solstice. 1 day to complete our quest. And that is the end of chapter 16.